they will pay you the type of money that you've never seen in your life. We're talking about millions of dollars a year. You're talking about, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, maybe with multiple companies, being able to solve these problems for them. And that's a very, very real reality in today's world. And that's all by you maybe spending an hour a day, one weekend, learning how to do things. And I promise you, your mind will explode in a way that you've never experienced. What you want to think about is, how can I learn something right now that very, very few people in the world are learning, which is going to change the entire trajectory of human civilization and the economy and the way every single business works. And if I learn this thing right now, which everyone should be learning, you're putting yourself into a position of being in the top, just 0.001% of people in the universe that understand how to do these things. And it's very simple to learn and do.
Clap, 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 we're done just right. 5-day sprint took us to new heights. Make it, build it, your dreams ignite. We're making moves at turbo pace.
Hey everyone, I'm Omar. Welcome to another episode of Community Updates. It's a weekly show where we share with you everything going on inside of our school community and on the 5daysprint.com, so you guys can stay up to date, maybe get excited about new features and ideas. And today we're going to do something extra special, which is actually showing you a fun new idea using Nano Banana, which is Google's new image generation tool. And as always, we got with us Ollie. Hi, Ollie.
Hello, how are we?
We're good. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, and yourself too. I'm excited for the live demo at the end of the call. This is going to be a fun one that's been puzzling my brain all week. So I'm excited.
What's puzzling my brain, because you've been sort of, you've been like a little those sort of mini figurines you get. Have you seen those mini figurine type AI videos that came out? Yes, I have. You're like that inside my head, just scratching away with these little ideas. And so Ollie's been sharing these sort of tidbits of info with me. He's been playing around with Nano Banana and some really fun stuff. Shared some things with me that he was doing with Guilty Chef for some of the recipes. And I've actually interestingly seen you, just carve out your own curiosities over the last week. It's been really fun. And then on Friday, we had just a general call. Ollie shared his screen and I just paused him and I said, no. I don't even want to start. Let's do this on Monday. Let me see this during the call, because I had 1,001 questions and I actually want to see it in real time. And I want to get excited in front of everyone else. So we're going to do that together at the end, which will be really fun. So this is going to be like Ollie's first demo, man. So no pressure.
This will be, and as always, demos always crash. So fingers crossed and touch wood that we have some success with it. But yes, you are right. I've been in the weeds with it, and I must admit, I think it's the beauty of everyone oversharing what they do on social media. You can kind of get like snippets of what you like and what you don't like, etc. And then you can just build it into what you have purposely built for yourself. So yeah, Best to Buy, Guilty Chef. There's loads of different things that we can probably uncover in the next few weeks. But I'm excited for this one.
No, I love that. It's especially with funny. First of all, demos never work. My CTO used to say that all the time, and we would just kind of coin that term. I was like, that'd be such a cool brand name. We didn't coin it, we didn't come up with it, but we just thought it's a really cool brand name just to have in the AI space. It's like demos never work, like just a brand, because it's funny, all the demos right now you're seeing, Meta, OpenAI, everything's always failing. It's like someone needs to almost take that and first of all, you could create a site, that's just sort of showing demos failing, which would be so I imagine just going to a website where that's literally demosneverwork.ai or .com, and it's just demos failing.
As soon as you said that, I was just like, there's just some sort of SEO heaven, that terminology being searched up on Reddit, any platform right now. You can just imagine that would bring so much traction towards someone's site.
Even a Reddit thread of like demos never work. It's actually quite funny. It's almost seen like bloopers, right? Like they get such traction on YouTube, so that'd be a fun thing. But you're seeing it in real time now. Everyone, probably apart from Apple, but it'd be fun to try and catch Apple out one day and just say, we noticed that.
Finally got them after all these years.
Exactly. All right. Well, here's the agenda for today. So this was quite nice. Last week we had an agenda, and then we looked at the agenda and we thought, okay, maybe it was a bit too long because we ended up doing a 2-hour call. And so we're still trying to find our rhythm with how long these need to be. So here are the topics we're going to go through today. We're going to start off speaking a little bit about, how to think about building with AI, so just getting your mindset into it, maybe understanding a little bit around how we think about it in the community and the type of sort of conversations we're having around how to actually build and think about AI. And I thought it might be interesting to tap a little bit into sort of the real value of learning AI, especially in the world. Sometimes we can look at AI and just see it as like, well, what can I build for myself? Like, how can I turn this into revenue? But actually, there's some really interesting ways to think about the skills that you develop in this sort of, real world we're in right now. And there's so many opportunities that you guys can sort of jump on. So we will definitely touch on those. And then sort of the AI space today, things that might be good to know. This is a point that you brought up, Ollie, so I'm excited to get into that a little bit. We can reflect on last week's community call. So every Wednesday, not every Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays a month. So every other Wednesday, I do a live community call with the community. People join. We have a nice Q&A. And sometimes we also get into a demo. And this week, we tapped into a little bit of design. So that'll be fun. And we can just maybe share a little highlight of that. And we'll do some community member updates. I know Ollie, as always, is packed out in the week. Last week we started on this community call. We announced Ollie's office, which was last Monday. And since then, I don't know how many you've been, Ollie. I think like every day you're just speaking to multiple members, aren't you?
We've had a few per day, which has been great because it's the validation that we also wanted from it. So it's been fantastic. So I appreciate everyone that's jumped on, by the way.
No, it's very exciting. And then, we get to catch up and I get all these amazing insights that, be impossible for me to do all by myself. So it's really lovely that Ollie's in there. And, people, they said someone today who just wanted some, explore some ideas with Ollie and they're going to be jumping on later on. So, we appreciate you doing that, man. It's really, really fun. And then we'll maybe tap into mental models. That's been a topic that's come up a little bit. Maybe we'll cover some of that at the top of the call, but if there's anything sort of left over from that, then we can fill in there, and then we'll do the fun sort of AI demo and jumping into what Ollie's been working on. So that sounds like a vibe to me. Yeah,
100%. There's
awesome.
I mean, we said about try not to pack it out too much, but I actually do think it's going to be a lot of good stuff to mention that probably is quite relative as well, because a lot of them blend into one another. But even more so, I think they all have their own special place that we can touch on today and give some insight, some value. And also, I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that comment through the community and also on the video on YouTube that sparks us for next week's prompting to make sure we've got some good tools and ideas to explore again.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think well, let's kick off with the first topic, how to think about building AI. I know you kind of noted this point. What are you kind of seeing? What are the things that you think about when you're, I know we touched on last time about kind of actually, finding an idea, but in terms of, a mental model around how to think about building in the space.
100%. And it kind of stemmed from the conversation we had with Max the other day. So I jumped on a call with Max, part of our community. Also, excitingly, your call next week that you'll have as part of the members' calls. Yeah. So cool. And a lot of the ideas that Max was brewing with me, and I'm not going to exploit too much because I'm excited for people to tune in next week, but it's how you get to the stage right now where you're recognizing patterns that you can understand what it is you go and build. So we spoke last week briefly around the idea of, is it passion-led or is it data-led? And I also think there's probably a big piece here that we probably forgot to mention, which is trends. And weirdly, I think the way that AI is moving right now, and I also touched on to another point, I think we're now getting to that stage where you can start building, launch, and within the space of a year, you can either sell what you're doing or move on to the next thing. And I think the time frame of building things now, becoming successful with them and growing them to how much you think you physically can as just a one-man band or one-woman band is now allowing you to get to that stage where you can just kind of do things based upon trends that are happening in the space. So we've seen this whole impact of AI imagery. We've seen this whole impact right now of Agent Kit coming out from ChatGPT. Yeah. And we're now starting to think to ourselves, like, we can now save ourselves so much time, increase productivity, and start building around how those aspects work. And to link it back to how we should start thinking about building with AI, I think quite confidently trends are a big thing, but also it's history and how history repeats itself. It will always get to that stage, whatever business you grow into, history always repeats itself. So how can we take things that's worked previously in the past and now sprinkle a bit of AI over the top of it to now build that into a whole new thing that now starts working?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even more broadly than that, it's almost like if you take the patterns of almost maybe social media when that came in, you kind of had to learn new skills, of how to communicate, and especially with storytelling, and you see with the rise of social media that storytelling was such a key component of that. But people are sort of figuring this out as they went, because at the very start of it, everyone thought it was just about followers, and the number of followers, it was almost like clout chasing, and all the sites that you had out there that would help you just sort of get followers and pay for followers, and there was all this type of stuff going on, because everyone thought that was what it was all about. And then over time, sort of the algorithms mature, the industry matures, and then we kind of get to a place right now where it's all about creating content that people actually engage with. And so similarly in the AI space, I think we'll see this space evolve over time. And what you don't want to sort of do is kind of come into it at a point where it's sort of matured and evolved and almost feel like you have to catch up on how to actually use it and how to actually build things with it. And so I think now is a really good time to just, even if it's just experimenting, even if it's just opening up, like we did, I did at the very start of my journey, was just opening up ChatGPT, just having a chat with it about ideas, and then slowly, I was like, okay, interesting. Well, now I have a project I was working on. I think it was something in my agency, and I wanted to add some animations to a landing page. And then I just spoke to ChatGPT about it, about how would you do this? Then it said to me, hey, you should consider using Lottie files. And I was like, well, what's that? And then I started using Lottie files, which are basically, well, normally I would go into After Effects and think you had to create sort of these crazy animations and load them as videos. And I was doing all this sort of like weird, abstract type of work. But actually there's this site called lottiefiles.com. And if you go to it, they're just pre-made animations that people have created. I'll see if I can bring it up, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can jump on and share this. But this is a good example of how, just using AI in this way, where you're just exploring your curiosities, and you don't have to go as far as thinking about what do I do right now with building, like what's the project I'm going to create. Like you don't even have to go into that landscape. Just start by following your natural curiosities, and the feedback you get from AI will open the door to the next curiosity, right? So as I'm see it come up with Lottie files, I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. Well, how do I actually use it in my site? Like what happens? And then when I started to play around, I was like, okay, well, you can just search animation. So we can say, I don't know, verified, if you're looking for a verified badge, and has all these cool sort of like verified badges. And let's say I like this. You can just download it, and it downloads as a JSON file, right? So you can download it as a video if you want to, and you can add it to videos like on After Effects and Premiere Pro, which I sometimes do. So if you wanted to kind of create like these fun sort of animations popping up in your Instagram Reels, this is a great way of doing it, by the way. But more than that, they're in JSON files, which JSON itself is a sort of a format that web pages can read very, very easily and can work with. And they're very minimal in file size. So you'd see an animation like this. If you render this as a video, you're talking about megabytes worth of content. Whereas a file as a JSON is like, only a few kilobytes, very fast page loading, which is great for your SEO, of course. And also the size of this library allows you to get really creative. And so when I discovered this, that was just through a ChatGPT conversation. Awesome. I never would have found it otherwise. Secondly, how do I integrate it? It shows me how to integrate it. Thirdly, that's become something that now sits in my memory bank. I now know that when I build something again later on, I can utilize this. So that's one example of how just, toying with AI to find new tools and find new ways of doing things, but just by following your natural curiosity can be interesting. And then that's also how I stumbled upon implementing SEO schema, right? I was like, okay, well, can this thing now help me generate SEO schema? And it could. That's great. And then you slowly start maybe automating things. We went into Zapier, now we're working with Claude Code, but it all starts with just using AI in a very simple way. So I would definitely say, using AI to just help you sort of flesh out ideas is a great way to start. And then a question we get very often is, how do I start if I don't have an idea? And I think that's also kind of something that we haven't quite, got our heads around, because we think that we need to have the idea first, and then I will jump into something like the 5-day sprint, and then I might download Cursor, or I might jump into Claude and I start building things. But actually, you will discover ideas as you're going. And so you have to be able to just throw yourself in and allow yourself to be curious. And Kareem is a good example. He's been curious about building for a while, He's someone who works with us. And just this weekend, he was at my house and was like, okay, I'm going to fire up Claude Code. And what's the best way of me going around it? And I was just, look, just start playing. Just start seeing how things work. And as he was doing it, first of all, he picked up on a few bugs for the framework, which are interesting. And so I was like, okay, great, I'm gonna go ahead and fix those. So it's great, just feedback from me by people using it. But also him doing it was just him opening the doors to each curiosity by himself and just going away with it. And the idea will come to you in due time. So I definitely think a great way to think about AI right now is just get active, get involved with it, and allow yourself to use it at any level that feels comfortable for you. It could be a ChatGPT experience. You could do it through the community. You could get engaged with something like that, or actually start building a product that you got an idea for. But if you haven't got an idea, just learning the skills and sharpening your mind will help you find them.
100%. And to back and validate that whole point is, the only way that I ever got into AI was loading up ChatGPT one day and just said, how can ChatGPT work for me? Like, this is everything that I do. This is my ideas, what I want to go and play with. How can I do this? And it was different because when you type that in on Google, you get 100 different links that you go and click onto, and you have to then go and find that resource of how something's going to benefit you. And that may be 50 hours worth of YouTube videos. That may be hundreds of thousands of different Reddit posts you have to go through. Whereas ChatGPT and these other different LLMs are giving you stuff that is actually relevant to the question that you've asked in real time. So in 30 seconds time, I will have a list of things that I can start working on that potentially, if I'm not a creative person, I can then leverage AI as my creative tool that allows me to start thinking to myself, I would never have thought this idea in a million years. You've now thought of this. How do we then maneuver with this? What's the first steps I take with that? And I think that's the key ingredient that a lot of people right now do struggle with. And it's not to their fault, because AI is this whole new thing and there's so much conversation around AI that people don't actually know where to start with it. But if you are just trying to work out right now and procrastinating on how you get involved in this AI space, the simplest things to go and do right now is actually ask AI how AI can work for you, because you will find out how to speak best with it, how to prompt, all these different things. Like, I don't even think that I've perfectly found out how to prompt. I've always been fascinated of how you prompt, the structure that you've given us inside the prompting university we have inside the community. I have found ways that it works for me, and I think that's great. But I'm also really open to understand how other people prompt, because there still probably is layers that I could find even more information out without having to ask another 2 or 3 questions.
Yes.
And I think that's only ever come from actually getting involved, playing around with this idea. And you may have the most drastic idea in the world of what you want to go and do. It may be one of those things where it's like, I always say to myself, you always have to have a unicorn idea that when you say to someone, I'm going to go and do this, they think to themselves, no chance. Like, you've got no chance of doing this, because it keeps you driven towards going to actually go and do it. And you can also have a free space to just tell AI what that kind of unicorn idea is. And it weirdly starts making this whole thing seem realistic. Whereas when you say it to a fellow person or someone else, they might think to themselves, no chance, forget the idea, you'll never be able to crack it, kind of stuff.
And that's a very important, that's such an important point, because maintaining that sort of fuzzy feeling with your ideas is, first of all, just very important in general. Like, even if you remove the AI space, and let's say you have an idea and you hear comedians speak about this when they come up with a joke, and they might share the joke or perform it too early, and it's still too precious to them, right? Because ideas are like that. Ideas are like sort of a baby, they're very dear to you, they're very precious, you love them, they have this warm, fuzzy feeling, emotionally. And you share it with the world, and if you don't get the response you want, it can almost like, demotivate you in a sense. And I think what I love, and last week was a good example, because I was building something, from Wednesday through Friday, which maybe, Bar Ollie, a couple of people know about. And I purposely, I was even like, sort of slow to even share that information with anyone at all, because it's such a big and bold idea that sounds too good to be true, on one area, so it might be a complete failure. But on another lens, it kind of excites me because of the fact that it's so ambitious. And so if I just go and speak to AI about it and start working, it can kind of help me, first of all, work on the idea and see it come to life, but also tap into those curiosities of, well, can we also do this? Can we also do this? And I'm validating that idea in real time. So by the time I'm ready to share it, I can now send a screenshot to someone and say, hey, look what I made. And now I'm, excited about it because it feels real. It's not just an idea anymore. And those building blocks are an important part of understanding how to work with AI. We have to, I think, build a very, almost rewire our mental model in a lot of ways And I don't think there even is a good enough reference point of what AI can do, because it can do so much. But really, I think breaking it down to building blocks is a good way of thinking of it, right? Like we always give this analogy of Lego bricks, but it's a great one. And so every single thing that's happening when you're using a software, let's say you're using something like Twitter, for instance, right? When you go to the site and you're seeing a login page, that's like one piece of the Lego block, right? For which we might use Supabase, where Supabase allows you to control your authentication system. You know, that page, when you look at it, you might be like, oh my gosh, how do I create a login system? It's like, how do I control users? Actually, you just go to Claude and say, I have Supabase, here are my Supabase keys, which actually will be already implemented when you're using the 5-day sprint framework. You just say, you know, give it the fields that you want to track for a user. So I want the first name, last name, their email, I want to set a password, I want to ask them where they heard about us and whatever else. Great, no problem. Within a few seconds, that's done. You go to your site, it's ready, it's already connected to your database. There's nothing more for you to think about. Then you go into the application. The next Lego block might be, well, now I want to see the actual content that users are, first of all, I want users to be able to post their content. Great. Well, now let's add a text box, which is an input field, like on a form, you might have an input field. That's exactly what it is. It's the ability to type something, press a button, and it sends somewhere, right? And so that's like a core part of that mental model, which is anywhere you see the ability to type something. It could be on LinkedIn if you're writing a new post. It could be on Instagram stories if you're posting something visually. The only difference is that you're sending a video form through a video format into the form as opposed to a text format. But really what you're doing is you're sending data to a database. And that's all that's happening. And that's then stored somewhere. Awesome. Now we've got a user, we've now got data we're storing somewhere. And now you want to do something with that data. Well, you want to output that onto a timeline. Excellent. Well, let's go and fetch that data and simply bring that up into a timeline. And if you want to now take that step further, is where you might add your building block of an algorithm, let's say, of how do you determine and rank which content to show. Let's say you have loads of users like on Twitter. Well, let's come up with an interesting way, maybe based on users' behavior or whatever else as you start to scale that thing up. But effectively what you're seeing here is just one brick at a time. You're creating a product, you know, and now you've got a valuable system that you can go and add a brand to, which is another part of the Lego block. You can add domain name onto that, you know, and then you're going to go ahead and market that. And so they're just very interesting ways of building. But what you'll really be rewarded for in today's economy is also showing people how you're building. And that's part of what we're doing here right now. We were saying earlier on as well, like a very meta thing about the 5-day sprint is you use the 5-day sprint sort of framework itself. Let me just bring that up as well. So if you go to, oh, what's going on here? There we go. So if we go to 5-day sprint, this entire site you're seeing itself and the ability to create a new project, let's say over here, just this product that you're using, wait for it to load.
One of those mornings where nothing loads. It's the live demo aspect.
We just said demos never work, and then I'm opening this up, and this is literally not. So anyway, it's quite funny. This is good for you guys to see because I'm actually curious now what's actually going on. Is it me or is it actually? Can you check on your side? Let's see if there's. Could it be? Is it actually?
This is. Do you know what I love about this? Is I know you're going to keep this in.
No, I am going to keep this in, but I'm also.
It's working my side.
Oh no!
No,
I think we're good. Maybe it's taking a minute to. Let me see.
Yeah, I've got it working on my side.
Oh, it's working for you, yeah? Or maybe it's you know, we had this issue. Oh, there we are. Yeah, a few weeks ago where the internet providers in Dubai, where I am, had some sort of outage and that affected Superbase's database. And so I had to use VPNs to work on things. It was really annoying for like a week or two. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So at least it works. We don't have bugs. All right. So this product in itself, the 5-day sprint framework that you use to get yourself 80% of the way there with building things, this product in itself was created using the 5-day sprint framework, right? So it's almost like it gave birth to itself, which is, the chicken and egg situation, but like the chicken and egg happened at the same time, which might be a revolution in itself. But this product is a product that generates its own revenue. So it's something that we built with the 5-day sprint framework and now generates its own revenue. Awesome. Well, that was all done through showing the process in real time, a version of what you're seeing here. So it's a very meta example, but it goes to show that you can literally be building things, and just by showing people the process of you building things will reward you. And that's where you'll find your users, because people love seeing that. Another great example of doing that is using Reddit to go and actually find an idea, find problems that people are actually experiencing, and then replying those threads and saying, hey, I just want to build this tool, which you could do in a few hours using the framework. So that's how you want to think about building with AI, is like be lean, be agile, be able to just pounce on things, feel very, excited about your ideas, then go and actually execute them very quickly and then bring them to life and then go and put them out in the world. And then if you need to iterate, tweak, or go into another idea, you can do that very easily. But sometimes we get stuck on that first part, which is what's the idea? Then we want all this validation. We want everyone to make us feel great about the idea. But what you really need is just the confidence to go out there and start iterating in real time.
I want to just add on a piece on the end of it. I don't. Hopefully, it doesn't conflict with what you're just saying. But I also think a really, really good piece around how you can start thinking about building AI is also that validation element, because we can get 99% through building something, and if no one wants it at the end of it, then you've not wasted time on it, but you've wasted valuable time on where you could have asked for feedback along the journey. So when you talk about the idea of building in public and you're showing exactly what you're doing, it's not a case of you're exposing of how far away you are from the finish line. What you're actually doing is you're giving people the opportunity to say, have you thought about this? Mm-hmm. And when someone says, have you thought about this? Similar to what we show in a live demo later on, or similar to how you've reiterated and changed how best to buy looks, it gives people the opportunity to turn around to you and say, what's your thoughts around this idea? And you can go, yeah, I love it. Or do you know what? I don't need it right now. I can fully back the idea that I've got right now is working. But it gives you the opportunity to meet the demands of what the market's going to say to you as soon as you do launch. Because the last thing you want to do is publish, be live, and everyone says, oh, but if it could do this, I probably would be a subscriber. If it could do this, I probably would use it more. And you're like, absolutely. I've got to go back to building the whole element again. So there is also that aspect of making sure you're, one, asking the right people the right questions, and the right people tend to not be sometimes friendship circles as much as you want them to be, because we all have the guilty pleasure of probably telling our friends that everything they do is fantastic. But if you find an industry, for example, like hikers, right? And you want to go and build a project around hikers and how you can go and help them, there's no harm in when you're on a walk yourself, or just like out in the countryside or wherever you may be, just like when you're walking with people, blended into conversation, not like you just got to on the spot go and kind of promote or try and do a sales pitch to them, but you can find a way that you're just having an organic conversation with people to work out, okay, does this even exist in their world right now? Because sometimes we build projects that aren't actually in our world and we don't have the full picture and full exposure of how things work. If you aren't building in that kind of world, it's so important to make sure you are asking those questions frequently. Absolutely. And again, like I said, to the right people. So
that's why I think it's important to maybe, just that obvious sort of cliche that founders share, which is, solve problems that you experience,
right.
Which I think, it's probably someone that is a hiker and is vibe coding will probably have a higher chance of success than you trying to figure out what hikers sort of need, right? Because it's very innate to them, the problems they're experiencing. And we all have those versions of them. And actually, I think it's such an important skill, especially now, as it was with social media and anything else, which is being self-aware, being very attuned to what you're feeling, right? Like every single sort of nook and cranny of your day, like, oh, that's like you're going to pick up your kids from school. Okay, like what am I feeling here? Like what's going on? Like, okay, that's interesting. Like, and it doesn't have to be an AI solution that you're delivering, but even just training your brain to be able to find opportunities in certain areas, because the world as we see it made up today is made up of people that are no smarter than us, right? People that are just humans like us who have figured out how to solve certain problems, but have taken actions, but they started from a place of, wouldn't it be interesting if, and just that mental sort of acrobatics can guide you so well. And then just by doing that, you'll, warm up that muscle. And before you know it, you are thinking of ideas that can be executable in Claude Code or Cursor. And even more so, you'll be able to, as you're working with Claude Code and Cursor, you will have the training of working with it. And then when you actually have the ideas, there'll be this kind of perfect synergy where your ideas meet your sort of abilities and the things you've experienced. And so you won't know that if you don't actually do it, you know? So I think that's also, you know, very, very important. Real world value of learning AI. So it kind of like segues nicely based on the topic we were just touching on, but just the two kind of key models that we really speak about in the community are sort of the idea of A, being able to learn AI to build tools for yourself, and then B, using those same skills to solve problems for bigger companies. And we speak about that often, but it's a very important way to think about this space. Sometimes we can feel like we're stuck in one world of almost, well, what is the idea that I'm going to build? You know, how do I make money from it? And again, to Ollie's point earlier on, if you're just obsessing over that, you're almost, you know, putting yourself in a back seat straight away. What you want to think about is, how can I learn something right now that very, very few people in the world are learning, which is going to change the entire trajectory of human civilization and the economy and the way every single business works. And if I learn this thing right now, which everyone should be learning, you're putting yourself into a position of being in the top, just, you know, 0.001% of people in the universe that understand how to do these things. And it's very simple to learn and do. If you can literally read a book and write a text message, you can learn how to work with AI. There's nothing technical in that aspect about it. It's about being able to just express what you're thinking in your mind in terms of ideas, understanding the different building blocks that stack together that we spoke about earlier on, and learning that skill can position you very well in the real world. So you might now be able to go into any company, and we'll do some demos around this, and Ollie shared that it might be a good idea for us to do, where we identify problems that we're seeing other businesses experience, or maybe opportunities that they're not tapping into, and we might actually build live demos around how you can solve those problems, and maybe that will help ignite some, you know, ideas on your side as well. But you should definitely think about it from that landscape is, by learning these skills, you are making yourself into such an invaluable asset today, right? If you think about when you're going for a job interview, you're having to effectively sit there and in some cases sell yourself and, you know, really sort of express why you might be a right fit for the job, etc. But with this AI world right now, it's such a huge level of respect for those that are able to do this type of work, and a lack of willingness by those who are already consumed with their day-to-day to learn this type of work, that by doing it, you can be such a huge asset to them immediately. I'm talking about to CEOs, to CMOs, anyone in the executive space, CFOs who are looking for financial solutions. They're going to go out there and use tools like Ramp, for example, who are implementing AI and who are ahead of the curve, which is brilliant. But there's going to be other sort of corners of the market that you can tap into. You might find, you know, there's tools that are out there that might already have a huge market share of, let's say, I don't know, the receipt processing, you know, part of the stack in the finance world, but they might not be quick to adapt into the AI world. And you might be able to be faster, more nimble. You can send out a cold email. You can say to them, hey, I'm willing to do this for free. Just test out my product. Let me know what you think. Anything you want, because you can build fast. You can iterate very quickly. If it doesn't work, you don't have to report back to investors and to pivot. You can just bin the idea, go on to the next idea. And along the way, you've learned a whole load of skills and picked up tons and tons of experience that you can apply to your next idea. And that's the entire point of this kind of space right now, which is iterating your way up, failing your way up. And there's not been a better time to do that, because the cost of that previously would be very, very dear. You would have to go and maybe raise money, then go and actually hire people to put an idea together. You wouldn't really be in the weeds on the technical level of how an idea is coming together, because you might not understand it and there might be other people dealing with it. But this AI landscape right now forces you to be there, actually bringing your idea to life in every aspect. And like we said earlier on, just documenting that journey and sharing that journey maybe with your audience in real time can also serve as a marketing angle as well. So you're also doing that too. But above and beyond all of that, the skills by far make you an invaluable asset, right?
100%, 100 million%. I think there's, so I think sometimes we always look at it for face value, and actually if you step back and you assess what's going on right now, you can really see how there's probably three key dimensions of whether you're part of 5-day sprint or whether you are just looking at this whole space right now of AI, of how you can support companies, customers, clients, brands, whatever it may be. Because what you're now learning is, now you can assess how things work in this AI space. You now have the skill where you can sell your time to audit companies, identify problems they have, and also then provide the solution for what's going on. And let's say, for example, you can't yet build voice agents, you can't yet build automations, you can't yet build sites which are rich with SEO using AI, then it's not a problem, because what you can then go and do is either identify and partner with other people to then go and provide that solution for you, and you become really great at identifying what needs to change in companies to help them exploit the fact that AI is now creeping up into their doorstep. But let's say you have got the ability now where you can identify the problem, you can talk to companies now and basically say to them, listen, this is how I see and perceive this value of how it's going to change. There's no better feeling, by the way, of reaching out to a company and you say to them, if you don't believe me, that's no problem at all. Just go onto Google on the first page and I'm on there. And that's where your site sits, because you've done the hard work, you've done the graft to finding out how to then go and do this stuff. The validation is key. It's there for the world to go and see. And then you get to the last stage, which is then repeatable. And that's where you can then start doing things like this, building your own AI agency and solving real world issues, all because you were curious to get started once upon a time. And it allowed you then to go and build into this whole new mechanism, which is, I have now got this skill and all I did was join in out of curiosity. And there's no better feeling than when that happens. And I've, just for all the viewers to understand this one thing, I think I've mentioned this in every episode, so let's keep the trend going. Technically awful when it comes to failed ICT at school, couldn't build anything beforehand. When I first jumped into 5 Day Sprint, I was influenced by the ideas. I had no clue at what stage I was then going to be going and building some of the most incredible sites here and using SEO. I had no clue what SEO meant. But because I was open to understanding how this could work, I've now got the ability where me and Omar spoke last week, and I was saying to him how valuable the skill is that other people, once they've built their first site, and this is also critical, having an idea and sticking to that one idea before blending into others, I think is also really important. But once you then built that one site, it's then you can then repeat that process, whether it's for you and your ideas, or you go to these huge companies and you say, here, I've just seen, just by going over your website for the last half an hour, I've identified this is a big problem, this is a big problem. And actually your competitors now leveraging this aspect. So unless this thing changes, you're not going to see much of a return on investment. Whereas I can come in now and consult for you guys, or I can come and give you some feedback and support of how this stuff can change. And you can become the big driver to making change in the industry, because you were just curious to learn from the first standpoint. I know it sounds really easy to say and express this, but it actually is true. Like I feel very, very confident right now that I can go to most companies and say to them, by just looking at the landing page, looking at the website, or just having a deep conversation with them, I feel as if I can hold a conversation with companies now and provide a solution just around SEO. Whereas 3, 4, 5 months ago, I'd have been lost. I'd have been like a deer in headlights. I'd have no clue where to identify these issues. So going back to the point of assessing real world problems and solutions, it does just come from getting a little bit started, getting stuck in the weeds, plucking your curiosity of how you can go and help yourself first. And then once you've helped yourself, is that repeatable enough that you can go and help other people do the same thing? And that's actually quite a cool project to get involved with, I think.
Absolutely, man. I mean, let's give everyone a practical example. Let's actually show you how we would do it. So first of all, 2 concepts that I think have been very illustrative of this are Disney's Imaginarium. And the second one is Steven Bartlett's experimentation or failure team, that he calls it. And so the idea is this: these 2 organizations have these sort of parts of their company that are specifically dedicated to experiments, okay? Which means that they're very open to the idea of having ideas and having them maybe work, maybe fail, or iterate to a better version along the way. Amazon is very famous for this as well. And I think that was part of the inspiration that Steven Bartlett had. And there's a great clip of him at Colin and Samir's summit recently. And you can just type in Colin and Samir, Steven Bartlett, where he speaks on this. And I would pose to you the idea of outreaching companies. I'm going to show you in a minute how to determine these and how to find these. And so we'll go through this activity in real time. But I would find the key stakeholders at companies who right now are looking for AI personnel or looking for people to come in and change something, or maybe even the CEO directly, and write an email which is simple as this, saying, hey, John, companies like Disney and I would say it was something like, I would hope you are well or anything. Disney have the Imaginarium. Steven Bartlett has his failure team. Both have seen tremendous growth and some of their biggest, inventions. Even give the example of Amazon. Amazon have their idea of putting together teams that are no bigger than that can be fed with 2 pizzas, right? I think that's Jeff Bezos' philosophy. And the idea is basically we're going to innovate, we're going to do this blue sky thinking approach, and we're going to see, we're going to basically explore new ideas and see if they work and don't work. And your company needs this right now. And so some sort of short version of that. If you really wanted to, I would even take this YouTube video, go up here, copy the YouTube URL, go to downsub.com, paste this YouTube URL in there, get the transcript of this call with me and Ollie, tell it that there's a point around 40 minutes in or 30 minutes in, it might be by the time we clip it up, where Omar is speaking about the Imaginarium or Steven Bartlett's failure team. Take that transcript, ask it to write the email for you based on this guidance I'm giving, okay? Because I'm giving it to you right now. You're going to go and say to it, you're going to go and pose this email where you're saying that these 2 companies or 3 companies, Amazon, Steven Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, and Disney with the Imaginarium, have these concepts of basically experimentation, being able to move fast, to experiment, to iterate, and to see what things are working and not working. And the argument is that right now with AI, you should be doing this every single day inside your company. And you might not have that right now, and I am willing to be that for you. I will be your one-man experimentation team. And so you develop the skills in the 5-day sprint, use the 5-day sprint framework, you go to these companies, and there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be doing it. I'm not going to charge you anything. I won't charge you anything until one of my experiments works. How about that? You know, and I'm going to be experimenting every day until something works. All you need to do is give me visibility over the problems you're experiencing at the company. I will come in and I'll help you solve those. And so if you're going to kind of go in and you can almost create an agency, by the way, out of this, of just being sort of like this Imaginarium experimentation failure team type of thing, where all you're doing is teaming up with different companies and you are their failure team. And they're just throwing problems at you, you know, and you're able to solve them. And I think that's also within itself a brilliant idea. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to go over to LinkedIn, let's say. You're going to simply type in something like, you know, artificial intelligence. You go to any sort of job board or whatever, and you're now going to get a series of companies that are basically looking for people that are in the AI space. So what you're seeing here is intent. It's the same way through Google we use Ahrefs to see intent for keywords that people are searching. LinkedIn is a great public example of intent that companies are sharing, saying that, hey, this is what I'm looking for right now. And so let's say you go here, I'm looking at this in real time, but let's say AI content creator. Okay, so Board Panda are looking for, we are one of the leading tech-driven media and entertainment companies, blah, blah. We use AI tools to create everything, character scenes, animations, mood boards, build short animated clips. Great. And you might even know how much they're even willing to pay for this. Sometimes you can even see what they'll be willing to pay. And if it doesn't say, that's all right. We'll expect your fluent AI tools at Midjourney. Okay, awesome. Well, now I see this. What's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to first of all put you on game and tell you about FAL.ai. Okay? So
now we're getting into it.
Now you're going to go, what you're going to do is you're going to first of all load up FAL.ai and understand that FAL.ai gives you a single API that allows you to connect to every single generative media type of application, right? So you're solving, who are we talking to here? Carolina's problem simply by using FAL.ai, right? So does she know about FAL.ai? We don't know. Well, she doesn't know it enough to actually go and even ask the question in the job article, because she probably should be. Most of this can just be done with that one API. Okay, so you're going to learn how to use FAL.ai. You're going to use a 5-day. You're going to go to 5-day sprint over here, and you're basically going to say here, I want to set up a workflow that allows me to implement to set up basically a workflow that creates. In fact, you could even go as simple as literally like just copy this, go to 5-day sprint and paste it, and just say start research. And just build a product like this. In fact, you just take a job board inspiration like that, and let it run the research for you, come up with suggestions, connect up Cursor, connect up Supabase, and you're away. You can run this in Cursor. You've now got the first part of what she's looking for, which is also interesting because why did the research not run? This is a great example of demos never work. Look at us.
We're on a roll as well. I've never even seen. I've never even seen that website. So the fact that you just shared that now is opened my mind up, because I must admit to you, this is exciting.
No, it's brilliant. So, okay, I'm going to take a look into this because I don't know why this is not doing this, but still sign up because it will work for you. I think I'm having a little bit of issue maybe on the internet side here. So you can use 5-day sprint. It's going to give you a 1-line command at the end, which will be right here. You're going to copy that. You can go into cursor, you're going to hit paste. You've now got a scaffold set up, which is taking you 80% of the way there already, okay? You're going to load up FAL.ai. You're going to get your API key from FAL.ai. You will then be able to go in here and you're going to look at Carolina's requirements. And she wants character, scenes, animations, mood boards. Awesome. Okay, well, let's see here if there's a way for us to find a library maybe that is good at creating mood boards. And it might not be off the bat. There might be one that says Juggernaut Lighting. Let's see what this is. Okay, so basically you can sign in and run this, but you can see examples here of this API, which allows you to basically, okay, so it's just an image generation one, but basically you could turn it into, obviously you could use any image library to basically create mood boards. The same way you go into ChatGPT and say, create a mood board of this, it will go and create you a single image or a series of images in a sketch format, whatever you want. And now you've got those, so now you've got the mood boards. You could even go a level up and use the Anthropic API as another part of that Lego block to actually help you understand the context of the business using Firecrawl's API, and it's just content that you should be able to spit out, and then use something like Juggernaut or any type of model you want inside of FAL. There's all these models you can go to explore. You can see the recently added ones, the best image editing models, which you can see here, and just use any one of these. Sora is in here as well if you want to create video, and just run that. And I would go and actually look at her company. So let's see what her company is right now, Board Panda. And let's see what Board Panda is all about. Only the magazine for pandas. Okay, cool. Nice. So very interesting. I've never heard of this concept before. So whatever's going on here, so you could go and pick out, let's say, an article of something where the man ruins his marriage by stealing his wife's tea set and giving it to his niece. Okay, so I don't know what this site's all about, but something's going on. But you could, let's say, take something like this and create a mood board around tea sets, let's say, and around this article, you know, and you can just copy this article in itself, go to Claude and say, give me content suggestions of what I could create for viral content based on this article. Okay, then take that prompt, put it into your product you're building, and use one of these models to generate the images. Awesome. You can then send that to her also as an example. So with that email I'm explaining to you before, you would write the email about creating a sort of Imaginarium and around this, you know, kind of concept of them experimenting with ideas. You've also built something within a couple of hours. You can also attach a couple of content pieces and say, hey, by the way, very early, you know, but just, you know, played around with some ideas based on what you were saying. Here is my agency, which builds experiments for companies, or I'm willing to do this for you for free until something works, or put a small cost on it if you do feel like there's a cost that you want to, you know, include. But then anyway, I would take any one of these examples. I would then go ahead and actually take Carolina here, copy, go into Apollo.io here. You're going to go search people, and you're going to type her name, and you're going to hit enter. Let's see. Let's type in actually Board Panda. Okay, here you go, Board Panda, all these people come up. We want to find Carol. Here she is. Okay, so she probably had those accents. Here you go, Senior Talent Acquisition. Cool. This is the lady looking for the job. Access email. You got her email. Okay, and now you're going to take that email. You're going to hear her directly. It's a verified email. You can get the email for free. I'm not even paying for the software. You're going to email her with that email. You know she's looking for it, and you can build something easily to do that. And away you go. And you could do that for any role. So we can now keep going down here. Let's look at what else we got here. Head of AI school, AI freelance content producer. A lot of content production type stuff going on here. You can look in a specific region as well if you want. AI video creator. Let's see. Pre-sales, applied AI expert. Data over delivers AI that maximizes impact and minimizes business. Okay, this might not be as cool. Virtual assistant. What are you looking for here? So this could be
one at the top, I think, around prompt engineering, Omar.
Prompt engineering.
I think I saw one ages ago, unless it was on the last slide we were on. But
this page, let me see.
Yeah, potentially. I think it's a little bit higher up.
A bit higher up. We're going to
yeah. Unless I'm sitting there.
Yeah. AI prompt engineer. Net Zero is dedicated to helping governments leverage AI in production. Full-time on-site role. Okay, fine. But still, you can still get in touch with them. Experience developing, tuning, and optimizing AI prompts. 10 billion plus is such a strange qualification, by the way. Is that AI?
Can I just jump in with both of those two job roles? The real beauty about them all is you haven't got to be a genius to do both of those. And the main reason why I say that is because you will leverage AI in your job to make AI work. So like you just said there, connecting up APIs through systems, what you need to become efficient at in that process is understanding what it is the assignment is. So for example, if the Panda company comes back to you and says, this week we're going to go and do a piece on a football team, and it's going to be a success story from a child that played from under nines to first team football, what you're going to go and do is the job brief. You have to understand fully how you can turn that idea into either photorealistic image generation, whether it's animation or cartoon. Again, great news. You just go straight back into Claude, ChatGPT, and you say, okay, the job brief is this. We need to really dive in the aspect of it's going to be photo cinematic, or if it's going to go and be animation or blend in with cartoons. And you're then just basically getting AI to leverage what you're doing for you. And
Absolutely.
Another one that I think is really, really interesting is I don't actually think these companies, and not all of these companies, but I don't think a large amount of these companies understand fully what they want when they put these briefs out, which is even more of a reason for you to go and impress them. Because I think a lot of them understand, and they're seeing their competitors putting out job posts because they want creative directors for AI. But if you really had a conversation with them, I don't think they fully understand what they want. What they want is someone to go to them and say, here's my ideas. And they want to be inspired by what they see by you applying for the role or having your own agency. So you hold the cards and the keys in this aspect to actually really impress people, because people just want now to be guided in the exact same way that companies want to onboard AI into what they're doing. They want someone they can trust, know, and like, that can hold their hand and say, here's everything about your business. Here's where you're missing out and where you can add AI in. And here's how we're going to go and do it. That's what companies want right now, because the last thing they want to go and do is add AI into their business. It sits there, it does nothing, and they think to themselves, AI is rubbish. AI is not rubbish, but you need people to understand how fully and how much it's going to fully work for you and how you can actually get the most out of it. Hence why we're now seeing a lot of people getting jobs right now to say they are the head of AI in this company on 60, 70, 80,000 pounds a year. But the job brief is probably actually nothing. It's probably a blank canvas, because they have to go in and assess the scene and make it work. So
absolutely.
A huge driver with all this is actually just using AI to make AI work. And we're probably giving away a load of cheat codes here, like how to prompt.
No, but it's true. It's true. And again, come back to that point of being in a small percentage of people that are doing it. You know, people could be talking, I was somewhere, I won't say specifically where, because if the specific person I'm speaking about is watching this, but I was somewhere and some person was sharing with me their concept of something they're building in the AI space, right? And sort of had all these ideas of it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and it's going to do this, and like, if people travel here, they're going to experience this, and then if they go here, this whole like wild like sort of product roadmap. And then when I asked them where they're at, well, we're raising money right now, and then we've got this person from here that we're going to bring in or whatever else. And I'm just sitting there being like, kind of reminding that meme, which is like, do the work, and then going through this like massive sort of thing. And at the end, it's like, do the work, And it's as simple as that, which is, and I can't stress it enough, or just do the work, like things like this. It's just about using common sense in real time and thinking about, okay, how can I work backwards, right? Like, where can I find interesting information of, maybe demand? Well, maybe I look at LinkedIn jobs, because people are outwardly saying what they're looking for. Maybe you go onto Twitter and you just type the term of something like, looking for, and you just hit enter, and you just see, because people are posting tweets with like looking for, reply to a tweet, hit someone in DMs. You can do this type of stuff all day long, where you can just be out there, just being intelligent about how you're using this tool in front of you, which is the internet, to go and get live information. And especially in this day and age we're in right now, is people are just sharing things out top of their mind. Sometimes like, not fully fleshed out thoughts, and which is a massive way for you to kind of jump in there and get aligned with what people are thinking about. And maybe you can then, pose a suggestion to them. And so I would be doing this all day long, like, especially if you're trying to find ways to apply yourself in this real world. Finding alignment between, other businesses and what they're doing is a great way of getting involved. And, a prerequisite to that you kind of have to be accountable to is actually learning how to actually, use these tools and build with them.
100%. I actually do want to touch on the AI space today, but briefly, because I think we've actually just touched on it perfectly, in the sense of there are opportunities out there for you to go and grab, and you actually haven't got to be, it's the first time in a long while, because we're now at the stage of the start of history again, where you haven't had to have the 10,000 hour rule implemented in what you do. Physically, you probably couldn't have done 10,000 hours at this minute in time with these new updates of how AI is working, these new job posts that are going out, because they are reacting to the space of how AI is working and adding these positions to their company. All you need to know is the low level understanding of how this whole process works and how you can take an idea into a prompt into a creation, and then go and adapt that creation rather than it just being a first fix, which is Nano Banana gave me this image, therefore I'm going to give this to a company. It's then how can you then take this image, reiterate it, change it? Do you go into After Effects? Do you turn it to a video? You go and make that possible for companies to go and work out, okay, I'm now seeing this person consistently posting on LinkedIn. I'm seeing these people consistently making YouTube videos or X posts, etc. And also just give me a job brief of all the work they do. I can probably validate the idea that these are as close to an expert as possible. But all you've actually done is just frequently just touching the idea of how can I go and make AI work for me? And just going back to AI space today, there are so many patterns going on right now where, and I think as a point I made right at the start of the call, I actually think some of the best ideas right now is not reinventing the wheel with AI, although AI can do all these incredible things and probably things that we've never been able to go and do. It's actually just taking a business concept or an idea, an opportunity, and just adding some AI feature on top of it. Because the analogy I always like to use is this: like once upon a time, the shovel was the best thing in the world. Like, you could dig holes, you could do things, and then all of a sudden a digger came into the world, which could dig bigger holes quicker. But funnily enough, we still use shovels to this day. So there's still an opportunity to use those same business models, opportunities, aspirations we had once upon a time. And it may actually now be the right time to do it because you can sprinkle a bit of AI into it, which either increases productivity, saves people time.
And it can be the smallest thing, like just the integration of like, one API, or one thing. You could just simply say, okay, let's just take the storyboard thing that she was speaking about. Well, you could right now figure out one prompt that allows you to create beautiful storyboard images, and all you got to then do is change the variable of, let's say, the scene or the topic, and it will just spit out the same thing every time in the same style. It's like, it's mind-blowing that that's even possible, right? To do things that way, but solve such a problem. And sometimes the fact, when we're explaining it and almost saying like how easy it is, you're actually going to think, well, why aren't people doing it? It's actually because people aren't watching these type of videos, and in communities like ours where they're seeing this and trying it for themselves, they're hearing the word AI and just seeing it as being technical. Similar to when people open up Cursor, maybe we could do this next week, just like talk a little bit around how Cursor actually works. I think it'll be a good topic, because you can look at it, it can feel very intimidating because you see that you're like, well, I'm not a technical person, I'm not an engineer. And I often say that it's a terrible user interface for the possibilities it really delivers, right? And so you open it up and it looks like something you see, just this typical, Hollywood movie guy behind a desk, glasses, type, not putting a you, Ollie, but you know what I mean?
Here we go.
Just this image we have of just like that archetype of person who has to be just sitting there sort of coding away, but it's not like that. It's all about the idea guy or gal, and that's who wins. So cool. And I think last week's community call was a good example of us dipping into this world a little bit. And so let me just jump back in here. And so we had
just Omar, just to jump in real quick. There's a point I want to touch upon which is relevant. Michael in the community mentioned this to us the other day, which is he's got no aspiration to work out how Cursor works, no aspiration to work out how Supabase works. He doesn't want to learn how the tech stuff works inside of AI. What he wants to know is, can his idea work? Can it be validated? And how can I then distribute it out to the people? And that is the thing that I think a lot of us avoid getting started with AI, because we think we have to know how the systems work. The whole thing around no code and why no code is so great for us all is it's allowed people like me to get involved in this space here and now have a real understanding of how AI is moving. And I've got no clue, like I mentioned earlier, around technology. I've got no clue how to go and do a line of code. Like, if someone presented me how to code, it would take me weeks to understand, because I just look at it as a bunch of full stops and colons. When of course it's not, it's the bigger picture. But all I have to do is learn how to entertain a conversation and how to prompt with these Cursor platforms, these Claude codes, and my ideas can start becoming reality. And I like also, again, Michael, good shout out for you again. It's the idea of being the lazy people. It's like, I just want to be as lazy as possible, because funny enough, sometimes most companies, and I don't know who said this, but it's like, I'd rather employ lazy people because I know they'll find the way that should be said. But it is that analogy, which is, if you have no aspirations to learn how the tech stuff works, brilliant. get started with AI, because all you have to do is just almost speak like me and Omar are speaking right now, and AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, all these different platforms will do the hard work for you in the sense of processing what your thoughts are, turning it into actual words, some scripture. Then you have to then just go and put the pieces in a puzzle. And again, the beauty about that is, okay, ChatGPT, we've got this idea. You spoke to me how it works. How do we make it happen? Talk me through stage one of how we make this work. And you go through the sequence together. And that is what's so important about when you go into these companies, you provide this work, etc. It's not you reinventing the wheel. All you're doing is just taking a brief. You're asking AI how to go and use it. Because fun enough, I think we're all in the next couple of years only going to be relying upon these sources away from our own IP, our own intelligence, how we think things work and how we process things. It's very much going to be a case of, instead of me asking Google, which we've been doing for a lifetime, it's now going to be a case of I'm just going to ask AI to do it. And it's going to become more efficient, quicker, and it's going to give me real-time answers that I need. Absolutely.
And even that answer that it does give you, I find very interesting, like, in learning how to speak to AI, it's literally like peeling layers of an onion where, your questions that you're asking don't have to be fully formed. You're almost seeking the answer, and what you're trying to kind of get to a marriage with AI is, how can it satisfy the curiosities I have? And it doesn't have to be kind of in this format of I ask a question and get single response, because typically the way we're used to interacting with, again, like, messages and two-way dialogue is you're trying to condense, maybe the questions you're asking into a certain series of words that then the other person can understand to give you the best answer. Also being mindful of the fact they might have limited time, and humans can only process a certain amount of information. You don't want to bore them, etc. There's all these sort of like again, acrobatics going on in terms of how to have a dialogue. But this format is very unique in the sense that you can tailor it to yourself, and so you can have you don't have to think about the perfect question to ask. You can be sitting inside Claude Code and saying, I have a random thought, and you can hit enter. And they might say, great, very excited. What's your thought? And you might say, I'm curious about how I can outreach brands that are looking to, build in the AI content creation space, but I've never built anything before. Enter. Okay, awesome. It's going to give you a response. And they might say, hey, have you seen FAL.ai? And you can then turn around and say, just on FAL.ai right now, no idea how to use it. Enter. Okay, next question. Okay, how do I even do that? Down to a point of what do I click? You can really tailor the conversation to what you want. And then you kind of almost are going granular down to a point of like getting to the starting point where you feel happy, and then building back out again from there and say, okay, now what, now what, now what, now what? And then before you know it, you kind of like now found the answer to what you're looking for. And so it's a very unique experience. And everything that we're sort of iterating here is it's all about how you learn to interact with it, to get it to speak to you and satisfy your curiosities. Because I might be satisfied with a certain answer that's giving me because I've got other context that I can kind of mold into it. I'm like, okay, I get what it's saying right now and I'm good to go. But if I wanted to, I can go 100 more whys deep, and you want to be able to do that. And even with how we did sort of this demo here last week on around design, it was all about that. I kind of opened up my screen.
Like sort of gallery.
And we were building out sort of a design system here. And I was just showing in real time, like as I'm talking to sort of Claude Code, you're seeing here, I'm just saying to it, I asked it to maybe build a custom map for me. I was building a map feature in Best Dubai, and I asked it to make a custom map like this with the Best Dubai logo. And then I didn't quite like that because I felt like it was a bit off key. And I just went back into it and I said to it, no, kill that, go back to a normal Google map. Then it went back to a normal Google map. And then it made it the way I wanted it to with the directions in there. And it's all just by speaking to it. Within literally everyone saw this happen within a couple of minutes, And then we're just giving it kind of this small little prompts to just add more information into our page. And then we're just getting this beautiful design. Somebody asked us, by the way, during the call, how do you test for responsiveness in a design? And I said, like, if you just open up your browser, like you could do right now, and just hit inspect, you'll see on the side here, you have this icon. If you click that, you can just change to different device sizes that you want as well, which is really cool. so you can see the site in different device sizes as you're designing it. But really the idea was just going into sort of the interface design, which I think was very useful to see, because even design you can do just through natural language, because the only thing, again, similar to building an idea, that matters is the vision. It's the idea. Like if you can build up that muscle of what is good design, you're kind of building your taste palette. Like the taste maker in you is what comes alive, and these tools enable you to just execute on that taste. And again, with design, when you're looking at what we're building with Best Dubai, it's all about taking an idea, which is, I might want the menu to have pricing on the right, and I might want to have, descriptions on the left. Just by explaining that, and that might be a reference point that I've got of looking at other menu designs before, or whatever else, we're getting to that sort of design format. So that was sort of last week's community call, which I thought was really cool, and that's inside the community, and we have all of the ones that we've done in the past. But I love doing these sessions because it's a great opportunity for everyone just to be able to get in there, learn together, see me building things in real time, ask questions, and we get to sort of have a all-inclusive dialogue around things we're all curious about.
And let's not forget the aspect which is that simple 5-minute exchange of you taking a map idea, building it, and then changing it back to the reality of what Google looks like would be a week or two's process for a company. Not because it's the difficulty level,
absolutely,
but because it's more so the time that you next speak to your client, or the next time you have that next meeting where you show what you've built this week for them, they may turn around and go, I don't like that, let's change it back. But that's a whole week down the line. You've done that in 5 minutes, and you're just challenging your thoughts, your inner beliefs, and getting validation from other people to change that whole. I mean, you probably don't give yourself enough credit for the companies that you've worked and impacted with. And you think about how many times where you can now go to them in real time and almost have 2 different scenarios built. Yeah. And it's not taking you time to do it. You've just utilized the framework to then say to them, which one do you prefer? A simple WhatsApp message, a Loom video you share across to them to say, we've built this, which one do you prefer? Rather than waiting a week to then share the updates of what you've done in the last week for them, how you've helped provide new solutions for them, where they just simply turn around and just go, yeah, we don't like it. Because then you've then got to address it there and then.
Yeah, and also that sits heavy on you when the time cost is something that we factor in when we're looking for feedback, because if the time cost was heavy for you to get to that point of that output to present, you're kind of also looking for a kind of response that matches that, because sometimes we could be like, well, I put so much effort into it, I've done this, I've done that, blah blah. These are all emotions, like AI strips all that apart. Like and I've had this with technical people before where they felt kind of had this gripe with AI because they've for 15-20 years been coding away and spending hours and nights and building things, and it's like, how dare something be able to do it in seconds? Like, no, that's not. And almost trying to find a narrative that fits, because no, it's not good enough at that. It's not. And I've done that, by the way, when AI started to be able to design a bit with Lovable Rep. I was like, yeah, no, but it's not going to be able to design like a designer can, because I'm a designer. And I want that to be true. But actually what I've learned to do over time is, no, actually let me use it to design and design better. And so I'm not going to use Figma or Canva or Photoshop or whatever else. I'm going to use Claude to design. And I am doing that now. And so, because I was able to get out of my own way. And so that speed just helps you accelerate much faster. And also your openness to be able to do that has to build faster, iterate faster, get feedback faster, and you're completely unemotional to the process which you're using. It's all about the end result. And that's what clients really appreciate, because that's what they want. They're here to run a business. It doesn't matter whether it's you doing it, Claude Code doing it, whatever else. If it derives results, it drives results. And if you can be that sort of point guard for them of, hey, I am the at the wheel in this vibe code entity within your company. Tell me what you need, I'll get us there. And you got your hands on the steering wheel, which is Claude Code, and you can get that job done. They will pay you the type of money that you've never seen in your life for being able to do that, and you can't even fathom it. Like, you can take a 100 grand salary, might sound amazing. That might be the next promotion for you or whatever it might be. But hey, put that all aside. We're talking about millions of dollars a year. You're talking about, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, maybe with multiple companies, being able to solve these problems for them. And that's a very, very real reality in today's world. And that's all by you maybe spending an hour a day, one weekend, learning how to do things. And I promise you, your mind will explode in a way that you've never experienced. And all of these feelings, the reason we're sitting here, and we could have these calls for 5 hours, Ollie and I, we don't even have to think of material to talk about, because we're so energized by what's possible here, because it blows our mind that much,
Yeah. 100%. And also, I think that the thing to tag along with that is a lot of people. I appreciate there's been many moments in this video where people think, yeah, it just sounds easy. It just sounds too easy kind of stuff. The reality is, yes, you have to go and do work sometimes for smaller based companies to provide that solution for them. But I promise you, if you had a case study of the next 6 months from this date onwards, where you've worked with now 5 different companies, the chance you can get to work with a huge company is so much greater. Not because those 5 names are recognizable, but they've just seen the last 6 months you've worked with 5 companies and done the thing you said you're going to go and do. So therefore, when you do rock up to, for example, let's just throw a name out there, an IKEA of the world, right? They're going to look at it from a validation point of view, where they think to themselves, you've done the thing you said you've been doing for a while now, which is great. And although you may have been doing it for 6 months, we're interested to at least understand how you can help us. Whereas if you went blindsided into that conversation straight away from day one and approached IKEA in the sense of, we want to go and work with you, there may be an element where they do reply to your email or they do pick up the phone to you. Of course there is. There's always going to be that chance. But when you do deliver an email, like you stated earlier, where you say to them, and also you have a case study of 6 or 5 different other profiles where you can say, I've helped these people. And by the way, if you don't believe me in this case study, just go onto Google, it's there. Or here's different videos of me going through with this brand, how it works. They're going to look at it just going, yeah, cool, we found the person we need. Absolutely. Because that is exactly how quickly things can turn around. Like you say, it is actually multi-million-pound ideas. And the reason why it is multi-million-pound ideas is because the infrastructure of these huge, ginormous companies, a small fix that in your head seems simple will make them millions of pounds. So therefore, the investment in putting you in that position to make it happen is so much more viable.
Absolutely. And there's tremendous upside in anything that companies can implement using AI, which is why they're all looking for people like you, hopefully. Awesome. So let's jump into community member updates. So I know we had a good chat with Michael last week. Max, I'm speaking to Dennis today. I was very energized by Michael's conversation. We need to get Michael on the call as well. So how's your week been last week? Just, catching up with everyone.
Yeah, great. It's been really good. And I think nice in a sense that no 2 calls were the same. And it was more of a sense of some people were just looking for some inspiration. And other people were looking for ways just to get around a few different bits and bobs that we need to improve, which is great because I think if we were sat still for a while, then we'd be probably scratching our heads thinking what's going on. So it's good that we have these different things that keep testing us. But I mean, if we just touch on Michael's call, and I'm looking forward to that because we've actually got the proper real deal for tomorrow where we can go and explore those things. But just the chance for us 3 to sit on a call for half an hour before the community call on Wednesday, where you're learning more around Michael. I had the pleasure of speaking to the day before. But it's then understanding from how these profiles of people have found themselves into the community that you've built, but it's also like what they bring whilst they're inside of it. So someone like Michael, an incredible creative mind, I have no doubt that he will be inundated of ideas that he can move with. But what I absolutely love about what Michael's done is he's stuck to one project. And he's got it in his head that this project impacts him. He's already seen how much of an impact it will have for brands. So therefore, he is building that. He's now got the validation because I'm sure in his network, he's gone around and spoke to them saying, if this was built, will it work? But he's also had the understanding, which is in his own living experience of what he does for a job from day to day, how would this impact him and help him? Well, ginormously. So he's now building that idea. And I'm not going to mention the idea because I want him to do that when he comes on and has that moment. But I also have, since having that conversation, it's like when you say to yourself, I'm going to go buy a red car, and all of a sudden you start seeing red cars on the road the whole time. I now have to have that conversation with him. I'm seeing all these different companies arising. Weirdly, it's like happening on my timeline, but no one's fixing the one thing that he wants to fix. And that's where I'm so confident in what he's doing and using the framework to make it happen. I'm desperate for us to jump on tomorrow, fix what needs to be fixed, and then let him then go and use his creative mind to go and leverage this whole product. And absolutely, that's what a lot of people are doing.
I loved his approach as well of, and I really resonated to as a creative, which is I don't care how this stuff works. I just have the idea and I want to see it come to life. And creatives want that. You just want, because again, like this is why I think cooking is a good analogy, because you get to have the creative aspect, but you also get to have this sort of reward factor of in a very short amount of time, you can actually experience the thing that you were curious about, right? And that's what you want. You want to be able to, you kind of, when you're thinking of, let's say, a dish to cook, you're almost like tasting it, the slightest bit of adjustment and maybe a seasoning or whatever can have an impact on the end result. And you're curious about that. And then first of all, the process itself is highly engaging because you're working towards this sort of goal of like the end result in very soon. And then also you get to experience it, and you also get to share it with others, and you get to see them experience it, and then you get the sort of feedback as well on whether it's good or not, and even by experiencing yourself and you trusting your own sort of taste. And I think vibe coding is very analogous to that, where you want to be able to experience things very quickly, as fast as possible from the moment the inspiration strikes. And that's what Michael is looking for. And so, I'm looking for that as a creative as well. Hence the example I just gave of, I don't care about, it's been such a long time since I've done wireframes for design. I don't care for wireframes. I don't care if it's an industry standard. Who needs a wireframe? Let's just see, isn't it better just to see the product? Absolutely. Now,
yes.
If someone like Michael can say, I've got this idea and I want to click my fingers, I want to see the product. That's what we want to be able to create for our community members, right? We want you to be able to have the idea and just execute. And everything around it is what we're trying to provide. So, the support, the conversation, the dialogue, the checking in with Ollie, being able to have demos with me, like all of this stuff that can help you build that muscle to then go and execute. And if you get to that point, you're on your way, and we're happy because we want to just see you thrive in the world and to build these things. And that's what was so energizing about speaking to Michael, when I'm seeing him just sitting there being like, mate, I just want to see these things come to life. Like, I just want to be able to take an idea. I want to have it out there. I don't care how it's created. I don't care which tool I'm using. I just want to see this thing happen. And those type of people will win because they also are forcing us to think like that more and more, to be like, yeah, you know what, you're right, like absolutely, like no one cares about the specifics of how it's done. Sometimes it's just like, what is the best way for me to get an idea out, put it out in the world, and tweak it, iterate it, just validate. That's what we want to get to. And we've been too romantic, I think, over the sort of past decade or so of the way startups and the sort of narrative we've had of even these ideas of what the process looks like in terms of getting a MVP to market, what product market fit looks like, and there's so much of that going on. But really, like, if you really break it down, you can get to all of that, which would normally take 2 or 3 years, within 1 week. And then you can have yourself, your idea validated or tweaked if needed.
100%. And we mentioned this last week when we spoke with Derek, which is and it's not in correlation to Derek's project, but it's more so in the sense of your first build hasn't got to be exactly how you dream of it looking. You need to get it out to the world where people then come to you and say, oh, can it do this? And how can we add that on? And I know earlier in the call, I mentioned the fact of you do want to have those touch points as you build, but we also have this reality now, which is you can have those touch points. And then when you do build, when brands do come to you and say, listen, Derek, we'd love to use your project, we just need this to be added to it. That's a light bulb moment, because it's not changing the whole project. It's adapting to what someone actually wants, knowing that this brand's actually financially going to probably benefit what's going on here.
Absolutely. And
when that fits a brand's criteria, they promote it out to their network, or when it reaches someone of an influencer's point of view and they think to themselves, the generic spin of things, like you see Joe Rogan sometimes, not even sponsored by some of these products, but he mentions them because they impact him so much, which is, it's like that, those kind of moments where randomly you've built something and someone mentions on a podcast, mentioned a YouTube video, they go to work and the CEO's been using it from day dot. There's no brand affiliation to it, but you're building meaningful things. And I just want to peel away from that in essence, because the reason why we're not sharing screen of people's profiles today is because the 2 calls that we've got coming up, they're going to be so important. And there's no point us sharing ahead of time of how they work, because what I want people to take from Dennis's conversation that you have later on today, and I'm excited for you to jump on for this one reason, is the way he has built this project is he has lived the experience of it. He's basically built a brand inside of this project, and he's identified how he can make the most of his network using things. So when people are watching this video later on, and I'm sure you'll get into the ideas around it as well, he's taken inspiration of how you've built Best to Buy and Guilty Chef, but he's then also thought to himself, like, how can I make this even better without having to wait for you to put content out there or just follow every single stage by stage? He's just used his imagination to then go and speak to Cursor and Claude Code and identified how that 100%. And that's why I think we're really keen to not share today. Like last week, we shared a load of profiles, which is great. But you'll see in real time if you follow for the journey, which is how these things work. And I think we are getting to a stage now where I'm definitely seeing this pattern. There's more ideas that are coming out that are based upon the user rather than just what you're providing for people, which is brilliant, because that's what you wanted. You wanted people to use their imagination, to take the framework, go step by step to go and build this thing. But now we have something where we're looking at this going, and I'm going to back this up. I've not seen 2 of the same projects yet being built. And that's what's so great about this whole thing. No one's just copying Guilty Chef. They're using it for influence, and then they're going, how can I impact my business? How can I take my ideas? How can I add this feature? And we're being inspired by them as well. I know that for sure.
Yeah, and that's the importance of those principles. Like, you know, if you kind of put a through line between those projects, they're all using similar principles, right? How they're thinking about those Lego bricks, you know, how they're thinking about using AI, but then they're applying it in different ways. And I think that's where, you know, it's all about you solving your own problem and figuring things out in your own way. But one thing we can share, obviously, is, you know, this special Nano Banana project you've been working on. You know, we've done quite a bit, I think, on mental models as we've been going. So we'll skip that topic here. And we can go into maybe seeing what you've actually been doing, which I'm very, very excited about. So why don't you touch a little bit on, you know, what kind of got you? Do you want to go directly into your screen share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy. I'm on my Miro board, which is my. We talk about mood boards. This is quite literally like I always use Miro for that aspect.
Come on, give me give me those exciting vibe code feelings.
Yeah. So the whole process of how this is come around, which is. Omar last week in his community call mentioned the idea of we had this AI button inside of Best to Buy. What do we go and do with it? And coincidentally, I actually wasn't there for the whole call because I had to jump off. But I took weirdly some inspiration, which obviously has now amounted to you building a map project inside the system. I thought, how can we bring this to life? And you made a video a while back now on YouTube around Airbnb's. They're like the emojis, the kind of icons of how they've built things inside the platform. So I thought, that's interesting. How can we make that work for Best to Buy? So I've taken generic images, and in fact, whilst I'm here, let's just go on to Best to Buy itself, and I'll share this tab. Yeah. And I've just gone and I've said, okay, cool. So we have Best to Buy, the Dubai wall. Yep. How can we turn this image and make it into something? And I think both of us are probably looking at this going, do we know yet? Probably not, but we can get excited about the idea of how it could work. So I've just copied this image and I've taken it through to Nano Banana, which I'll show you shortly. And it's distributed out images just like this. So we now have a 3D rendered image.
And when you first shared these with me, I thought like there was some. I said, what software is that? As in, I thought there was some site that someone had created with all these landmarks in there, like a library. And then you told me that you generate them yourself, which is just like, you know, don't want to swear on here.
It's cool, you know, right? No. And this is the cool thing, because I must admit I've been geeking out over image generation for a while now, and knowing that we have a real-time product here inside of Best to Buy, it's like, how can we capture that without like going too far into image generation? So like, how can we make it work for the site? How can we make it work for the central hub that it is? And away from just having what you've built at the minute time, which is the carousel feature. This is really cool. And just look at the detail here of
this one blew my mind, because this is literally how this mall looks.
Yeah. And the cool thing is you've got like, I mean, all the feeders here, the plant feeders.
Look at the restaurants in there. It's tripping me out.
It is, and I mean, we'll go through a few more. The global village. You'll have to validate some of these for me, because
it's all spot on.
And I think it's cool. I mean, this one's a little bit like, for me, I wish there was more from this. Like Dubai Opera, I think this would be so cool. But awesome. I mean, again, yeah. So this is cool. And
let me see the Museum of the Future one. Let me see. I haven't seen that one actually. The Museum of the Future.
Cool. Yeah, this is a funky one.
Mate.
And what I found really consistent about this is, and we'll go into a live demo of how we go and build these, because it's actually really simple. And this is where, by just watching content like this today and more that comes forward, you'll start to recognize that when we said earlier in time that AI is quite easy to get to know if you just use AI, like this generally is really simple, and I'm excited to show it. But you can now take this idea, whether you're building a best UK, a best Denmark, for example, and there's no reason why you couldn't go and take attraction points inside of these originated sites that you're now building, and you can have these features that sit inside of it. And this could be an icon that if we go back over to Best to Buy, instead of it saying up here, for example, the logo, if we had a logo here, it could be this as an animated image. Or, for example, one what I do want to touch upon is the idea of building a map. Now, for me, this is a bit of a turning point, because the map idea that you've mentioned about how we can have this working on the site is, okay, cool. Well, now we know we can go and use AI, and this is, again, just image generation using Nano Banana. We've now got the Opera House that we mentioned in the last one. We've got the Burj Khalifa here, and we've got the Dubai Mall. And I'm sure, without me intentionally knowing, there's probably other sites that also fit here. But quite honestly and quite nicely, this was the prompt here that got me this image. This 3D isometric map appears in downtown Dubai, okay? Now, for me, that I've never been to Dubai, and again, some people might be building sites where they've never been to these places before. AI is just using its understanding of what's relevant in these areas, and it's given me 3 or 4 different places which we can include, Dubai Fountain, Dubai Mall, Burj Khalifa, and the Opera. And I think we can then go and probably build more and more of just exactly what these look like, but for different aspects for Best Dubai, different areas of Dubai. And ideas that I've even had, and this is just away from Best Dubai, is with links to the World Cup coming up, there's no reason why you couldn't go and build a football World Cup site which in-houses and captures a bunch of data, information, the one-stop shop for people to go to. And you can turn all the football stadiums that are being built or already built into these 3D ideas. And I think a cool feature that we could have is potentially a hover feature over like the Burj Khalifa. So as you hover over it, it brings up Burj Khalifa's name here. You click it and it takes you directly to that page inside of Best Dubai.
Man, you're almost underselling it, because I think, like, you know, the first of all, the prompt there is gold. So, you know, absolutely, guys, screenshot that.
Yeah, screenshot that. Yeah.
So are you giving it image references at all, or
no? Let's go through it. Let's go through it now. So I'm going to go and create a new chat. So I've used Google AI Studio as the place and just toggled on Nano Banana. But there's other platforms like FreePic or Higgsfield, which and captures all these different methods and modes. And as you can see on the side here, you can have your aspect ratio. So, for example, if we want to create one that was suitable for posting, so like 9:16 would be great for like a potential Instagram story, we can toggle that on. And all we're going to go and do is I'm just going to quickly go and find the prompt that I use, which, to be fair, can blow your mind of how simple this really is. And we're going to go put this in here. And this is simply all it is, okay? It is really, really, really standard. Make an image, daytime, and isometric, building only. And the reason why this blew my mind at the start, and to most people that don't understand prompting, I always associate prompting with being paragraphs and paragraphs full of different points, how to go and do things, resonating with different aspect ratios, color grading, etc. This is just so simple that if we now went onto Google, or as I've been using recently because Omar shared it with me, the idea of using Perplexity, fantastic. It's obviously not working. Honestly, the demo aspect. Okay, cool. We're going to go for a different method. Let's see if we've got any saves inside.
So can you just type in like any building name, for example?
Oh, sure. Let's give that a go. Let's go with Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? I've probably butchered the spelling of it, but it's fine because AI doesn't judge. I think I have.
Pizza,
but
is that pizza?
No, close. I was very close. Are you seeing my? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Man. Yeah.
So although this doesn't look perfect, we could go back into elements of, could we add an Italian twist to it? So like, could we have a flag at the top here? Let's have a go at that. Are you able to add a Italian flag at the top of the poll?
You're so polite, Ollie. Such a gentleman.
Yes, ask me politely. I should have put please. My manners have gone. This could be awful, by the way. This could end up being a huge flag. We don't know. Okay, cool. It's actually worked out okay. But here's a really cool thing around this whole process, which is, let's say that flag was huge and it covered too much to the page. The really cool thing is, in real time, you can just go back and say, I don't like that idea. Can we go back a stage, and then can we distribute it in this specific size, which is suitable for the image itself? And by speaking to it in broader terms, which is just trying to get it to understand, because we have to also realize and respect the fact of, when we use image generation, although it's clear in your head, AI's got no clue what you're on about until you give it some form of description. So you have to be, which is why it blew my mind that in this short prompt element, it can give you information that over exceeds the value of probably what it should do. But we can add different aspects to it. So like, for example, if we wanted to change the background for scenery. So let's see if we can have this, have the background as if it was in Italy. And this, hopefully, this could bring out some sort of background element, which is the cities, the cobblestones, how the buildings look, and the infrastructure. I wonder. Okay, it's a little bit too animated now.
No, but it's still.
But even
it's
still,
yeah. But this is a great example of like I would so a very quick win, especially with the isometric stuff that you're showing with Best Dubai. I would take some of that and turn it into kind of the category, cards. So, if I had like iconic landmarks, as a category on the site, I might use one of those as like, it would look very clean on a white card with an isometric image, little title below it, and another one for like, whatever, historical, landmarks, and could be whatever, the souk or whatever you wanted to. But yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's just, and
do you know what I would love?
That thing is, yeah.
I would absolutely love, and I don't know how yet, we will find a way, if this could turn into some sort of 3D feature which you could spin around, almost like how the world map spins around. It would allow you to almost like, so imagine you are at the bottom here, you're stood at the bottom of the Burj Khalifa and you're trying to think of things to go and do. If you went back onto Best Dubai, being the only place that you need to go to find out things to go and do in Dubai, you can almost picture yourself of where you're presently stood. And you could then just see from just looking at this by spinning it around. Okay, I'm not even that far away from the Opera House. I'm not even that far away from the mall. So you could then just go and.
I suppose in a way, isn't it?
100%, very similar. I think that's a lot. It's a bigger build than probably needs to be done for something like this idea. But it's just where my imagination takes me.
No. Of course.
It's frustrating that Perplexity didn't fancy sharing with the browser itself to go and have these ideas of how to go and create stuff.
But visually, man, there's so many like experimentations that can be done. I'm just thinking now, like there are many applications, and my mind is more so alluding to how we deliver the most valuable experience for the end user, who mostly will be like sort of tourists or people that are looking for interesting places. Like, how can you delight them by using things like Nano Banana? Like, how can you have a more delightful experience? Because, even me seeing that, it's it's delightful is the right word. Like, it's like, it's a perspective that you don't normally see in terms of the where the angle is from. Then also the fact that it's so realistic in its details, which is awesome. It's like such a great UI element to add to the site also, but also just amazing to be able to build a map like that, which would be fascinating. I'm very excited to explore that, because I think there could be a world of, for example, like you saw us take those pins on that Google map that I showed from the community call, and we can already customize pins branded pins. You could kind of take a Google map and instead of a pin, having it use these as PNGs. So you're zooming into Dubai Mall and that's what you're seeing in a sense, which could be interesting instead of just like whatever Google shows as a pink pin.
That's a cool idea. Even like, let's say you wanted to create so let's say your project was around creating experiences for people in Dubai, and you wanted to build, like, you had an itinerary generator. Like, I think even if this was like nothing else, it would print you out a form on the page which has this icon and the name next to it and what you can go and do, the opening hours, etc. And you can capture, instead of having to go through every single individual page, it builds you that itinerary there and then, slap bang. And these just may only have the use of just looking nice and pretty on the page. And that's like a lot of the use cases that comes from UI designing, being creative. Sometimes they only are just the idea of making the feel even more immaculate from being inside of a site. But there's definitely ways that, I don't know, if we take away from the idea of Dubai and you just had a site which was, here are the most attractive or the top 100 best spots in the UK as the most recognizable places or most famous places to go to. You could have like the Eiffel Tower, Leaning Tower of Pisa, all these different places where you could just go and create these images, because the wow factor makes it feel even more premium to be part of that site.
Yeah, I'd be very curious. So something that's like definitely tapping in my mind a little bit is, if there's an element which I'll probably play around with Nano Banana, is could you let's say a good example is people, a category on our site might be great place to work from during the day in Dubai. Like people love asking that question, and it's a popular Google search term. But actually, going around the city, taking photos of the inside. So there's one example, which is there's a Porsche classic car showroom called Driven, you go in there, and inside it's like basically like a huge 2-story restaurant / cafe, but they're always rotating cars inside. So it's like these big glass cubicles with like classic Porsches inside, and like you can just go sit there and just work, but you're also sitting inside of the gorgeous car next to you, and you're just cracking on with things. It's a great workspace, but the inside of that is very visually appealing. So I would be curious to almost go like, I would probably experiment, let's say in my house with a GoPro, and say, can I get a 360 shot? Can I almost have a drone, like a fly up to the top corner of the room, get a 360 snapshot of the room? Can I take that image, put that in Nano Banana, have that turn out to an isometric view, and then could I go into places like restaurants or whatever else and take these shots, but have the interiors of them look like that? So then you could show people, hey, here's a great co-working space to look at, but it just looks so beautiful in that sense, which would be fascinating. So
that is, can I just touch upon that point just really quickly? There's a lot of people now moving into the real estate space with an AI, because what they're doing is they are contacting companies and taking the product shots on the website of someone's home and then turning them with Kling into like visual like walkthroughs. So they take that first shot and the end shot and have 2 reference points, and then they just make the video in between it with Kling just does it automatically with your prompt. I think there's because I tried this the other day, which was I tried one of the restaurants on the page to try and see if I could get the interior rather than the exterior and how it would look. And I couldn't work it out just at the minute in time. But I know there's definitely a way to go and do it. And I wonder, like you just say there, where you can go into these restaurants that you house on your site, or these, whether they're facilities or whatever your site is based around, if it's due around the idea of capturing information for tourists. And you could improve their product shots to their websites by just adding AI features to it, which is adding color grading to when someone used the iPhone 11, for example, to take the picture originally. And you can then add that professional aspect to it by using image generation. And that is becoming even more so relevant nowadays, which that may not be the thing that really tickles your fancy towards how you can then go and do things with AI. But if that gave you a foot in the door with a restaurant to then go and become the provider for them to improve their website, their SEO, all the other different strategies that come with it, because you're just improving the quality of the image generation that shows on their page. These are all different aspects of how you can make image generation work for your sites, just away from the standard. Yeah, 100%.
Oh my goodness. You can even just take an image out of asymmetric and just bring it to life a little bit with some slight movements, which was palm trees moving a little bit, turn it into like a 3 to 5 second little video loop that's just going on. Oh my God. Okay, this is very, very exciting.
I was just about to do that, and I'm glad I've stopped myself doing it, because we could be here for another hour trying that. But you are right. You could, if you wanted to, have people walking in and out of the place, because you just ask Kling to have interactive characters.
Oh my God. Okay. This is going to be really fun. See, this type of stuff that for me, like doing anything aside from just, exploring your curiosities like this, you can just go into so many pockets. Like in the last week, the amount of different types of projects that I've worked on, and then you have your creativity can really kind of go wild like this as well, which I think is fascinating. Man, thanks, Ollie. I'm very excited to dip into that more and see how that flows out, and we'll definitely get that built into the site as well, because I certainly think it'll be great pun, monumental. It was funny. Who's the other day who had a cool pun with? We had.
I know who you're talking about as well.
Derek.
I think it was Derek.
He was sharing his Slim Shady site, and I was like, just make here's the approach to go around this, but make sure you contact them directly because you want anything shady going on. And then I was like, well, if you do reach out to them, there's probably a slim chance of them getting back to you. It's so stupid.
That's quality. That is quality.
Well, no, good session, man. Good session. Well, as always, if you guys want to get involved, jump over to 5daysprint.com or school.com /5-day-sprint. All the links will be in description. You can hop in, get involved, say hello to Ollie, say hello to myself, jump in the next community call, get ahead of the curve with all these things we're sharing here. start to actually build using our framework, which will, really, really, help you jumpstart the ideation process and the actual building process, which would be really cool. And you meet some amazing people who you'll be surprised. There could be people living right around the corner from you. We're always discovering new members of our community. There's people in every corner of the globe, which we're really proud of. And it's shaping up to be something that, is, changing people's lives. And we're really excited about that. So until next time, we'll see you soon. Anything else to say, Ollie? Do you think?
I think we've done a good job, and I think what is exciting that people can get excited about for next week's call is we can now play around with a lot of these ideas we mentioned today and bring real life examples again, because I think that's something that we probably should do more of now, which is let's show people what we mean when we say these different things, because I think whether that demo got you inspired for something that you want to go and do on your own site or potential for other people, brilliant. If not, I promise you, the more ideas that we have and the more time that we have to keep sharing them, we can give you a bit of an insight behind the scenes of what we're talking about often. And I think that's a lot of stuff that gets us too excited around how we can help more people do stuff.
Yeah, and I definitely think we should do a sort of a little cursor demo, like a if you just open cursor for the first time, because I know it can be very overwhelming if you just look at it. But I'd love to just break that down and show you how simple it is to use. So maybe we'll touch into that a little bit. I think that'd be very valuable too. So,
spot on, 100%.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, until next time, guys. See ya.
See ya.
Clap, 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 we're done just right. 5-day sprint took us to new heights.